debut album, which was starting in 2001, which was all killer, no filler. I'm gonna let Kyle go first on this one, just so we could lead off and start our conversation of Sum 41's debut. So, Kyle, what overall impressions, track listing, what do you got for all killer, no filler?
This is, let's be honest, one of the most iconic pop punk albums ever,
Yes.
for a very good reason. It's a very good album. What a way to start. Technically they had the half hour Power EP before this. That one was more in line with like the skate punk that was going on at the time. This one was a little more mainstream pop punk sound, um, in a good way. In terms of if we're doing track list right away, I would go, Fat Lip is honestly one of my favorite songs of all time. It's as basic as that might sound. It's such a well-written song. um, you know, but now that I'm older, and now I feel like a sellout every time I listen to it, but it's fine. Also, Into Deep, Motivation, again, great songs. All the single choices on this one were fantastic. You can see why it got so big. But what I think needs to be pointed out is there are so many, like, I guess you call them deep cuts on this album that are incredible songs that I feel like don't get the recognition they deserve. For me personally, Heart Attack is one of those. It's ever since I first heard the album, it's been top tier for me. Same thing, Crazy Amanda, Bunk Face. There's not a bad song on this album. Only one I'm not the hugest into is Pain for Pleasure, but I think it's a pretty humorous way to end the album. So that's my initial thoughts on it.
Awesome. All right, Mike, what about you? What about all killer, no filler, track listing, overall impressions? What do you got?
For me, a lot of this album tended to, I was listening to this album when it was first released. I don't know about you guys. Were you guys listening to this when it was first released?
Oh yeah, I know when it
Okay,
first.
cool.
Yeah.
And I was in 2001. I was in high school, like just almost like graduating, um, you know, and it was beaten to death almost to a fault. And it was kind of like it was kind of a for me being the guy who likes heavy metal. It was a little bit of a tease, like where it's like I'm gonna hit you with this pop punk song that you're not a huge fan of, because in that time I wasn't a fan of it. And then I'm gonna hit you with some crazy solos and some thrash riffings for a couple seconds, and then I'm gonna go back into the pop punk, and you're like, whoa, I want to hear more of that. And it was like, no, we're gonna do some crazy songs where they're like really fast and we're edgy and we're trying to prove ourselves. This is to prove we're pop punk, but we're also punk enough that we don't want you to make fun of us for being pop punk. And like we're trying to gain that respect within the community. And a lot of that hate came towards them because of being that kind of goofy kind of looking band, in a sense of like the hairstyles and the kind of sound that they were bringing. But like they were gaining some respect with that edge of that metal riffing and that kind of heavy they were that guitarist is bringing it. It's just I think this album was a little too early for me in that evolution. And obviously the main hits were iconic, and they were just setting the stage for what these guys could bring songwriting wise and how they could evolve that without kind of maybe being so pop punk that it would alienate those people who were kind of coming from the other side of music and needed something else to hear when it in that musical equation. So I appreciate the album, and it's straightforward kind of what it did for the genre. And it's actually surprising to know that they were able to kind of keep most of these members in the band until much later they ended up kind of losing some of them, but the core of the band stayed within the songwriting and whatnot. The singles are my top tracks. One of the songs that I really liked was Handle This. It was actually one of my favorite of the album. And Most of the early tracks I wasn't a huge fan of. Fat Lip, Into Deep. but Handle This was a great song. And yeah, I think that it had some other good little, underfound gems on it. But overall, yeah, it's a little too early for me in their evolution of sound, but I appreciate it, I guess you could say.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, as a debut album, I mean, I was very young when this was 2001, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I was literally 3 or 4 years old when this was hitting. And I mean, I would later go back to stuff like this, not just for now, but like just a couple of the hit singles, like the singles that got released, like Fat Lip, Into Deep, Motivation. Like those are my big 3 standout tracks from it. I mean, and they are, Kyle hit it on the head. There are just some great songs in here that you're right. Probably, I haven't seen them live, but they probably don't get as much light live or in general as they should, because they are. I was listening to it through all the way through, and I'm like, oh my God, like why this would go over great live, or this would be a great track in general. I was going off like this, aside from Fat Lip, Motivation, and Too Deep, aside from those, they like aside from that, like aside from those 3 as my standout tracks, as the singles that got released. I know that sounds like a cop out, like, oh, he went for the singles or whatever, but those are just for me personally. But I do agree with Kyle, though. There are some good standout tracks on here that are deep cuts, yes, that maybe could be revitalized more as time goes on for whenever they play live, or just something in general like that. I mean, there's a lot of, I love it when there's an album that comes out where there's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 big singles that get released in general. And then but the rest of the album is just that good of a record. And like the deep tracks are still great songs, you know what I mean? I felt this way a lot with this album, a lot, truthfully. Again, as someone who's not a huge 741 guy, but who did this discography breakdown with Kyle and Mike today, I was thoroughly entertained as well. And then that's something that I really found very incredible about All Killer, No Filler. That's for me personally, though. I would say, but the question is for all 3 of us. Let's start with Kyle. Where does this rank amongst your Sum 41 albums?
It's an iconic album. I think it's solid all the way through. As the title entails, there is no filler on this album, which I love. I hate albums with filler, but they have better. It is still early in their progression as a band. I put it number 3.
Okay. All right. Mike, where does this album rank for you as far as their career as a band goes? Where does it rank for you?
Yeah, I got to come all the way to 5. I'm sure there's somebody headed to my house as we speak. But yeah, like I'm sorry. I felt it definitely. It appealed to that mainstream audience with those songs that kind of came on, and they played to death. But in the in-between songs, a lot of them trying to like be as like punk rock as possible, kind of came off just trying a little too hard to like live both worlds. Like, hey, we're pop punk and we can write a great song, but then watch this, we're gonna like look at this attitude. Once they kind of got out of that, and like later on in their later releases, they don't do these songs where they just like start like with the drumsticks where we're gonna go blazing fast. It's like, okay, cool, like you're punk, relax, we get it. So I felt like there was a little bit of that going on this, like, prove ourselves, but we're going to write some songs that are going to never leave your head ever to this day. And while they did one side, never leaving your head, they failed of kind of trying to bridge that real punk and pop punk together, to get that cred, I guess you could say. But 5 for me. Seems like a place for it.
This album is very much American Pie soundtrack music.
Yep, 100%.
Oh my God. Yeah, it did definitely. I didn't even think of that. That's actually a pretty good comparison right there from American Pie. I have All Killer, No Filler at number 3. This is my number 3. So Kyle, you said 3 as well, right?
I did.
All right, so that means we're matching up right there. Yes.
Villain status has been confirmed.
Oh God, we'll have to see if Mike is the villain at the end of this. At the end of this one, we'll have to see, of course. But yeah, All Killer, No Filler. That's our our top our filler for that album. Just kidding.